Hello, everyone. Welcome to Process Automation Release Notes live stream. This is the last one of the year. And today we will be discussing the latest major release, 5.0. And with me, I have Forrest, Jake, and we have a special guest, David Darby, today. Because basically version 5.0 is codenamed Denali Brown Apple. And David has actually, reached the top of Denali, and he has a picture with Pagey to actually prove this.
So this is an interesting. The story behind the mountains is with each major version we change up the theme. In the 4 series, we had mythical creatures, and this round we voted to do mountains, which I was excited about because I knew that David had done some pretty amazing mountaineering. So, Dave, tell us tell us a little bit about Denali and what you got going on in these pictures.
Denali was a great trip. It is physically challenging, of course. It took about, I think it was 19 days to go up and just over 1 day to come back down. But the mental aspect of it is very challenging as well. You end up basically hiking the mountain almost twice. And in the top left picture right there, you can see my particular team, we had 12 clients, if you want to call them, and we had 4 guides that were hired. So we had 4 teams of 4 rope teams. That is the gear for 6 people that we started out, because you essentially have to bring everything that you need for a 3-week trip, with the exception of water, because you use gas that you bring with you to melt the snow as you're going up to create water for cooking and drinking and stuff like that. So that is less than half of the stuff that we started out with.
Wow.
And in the bottom picture there, you can see one of the rope teams kind of traversing along on the way up. And what you end up doing is you end up carrying more than half of your stuff from one camp up the mountain one leg, and you bury it. The picture that's there on the right-hand side, you dig a hole probably like 8 or 10 feet in the snow, and everybody makes a leg up the mountain, carrying or pulling in the sleds more than half of your stuff that you need to push up the mountain, get you a little acclimatized to the thinner air as you're going up. And then you go back down to where you left your tent and your sleeping bag and food for a day or two. You sleep in the tent there, and then the next day you pack the remaining stuff up and you go up to where you buried your stuff and you establish a new base camp at that level. And then the third day is usually a rest day at that elevation to adjust to that acclimatization level there. So it's a series of these up and back as you work your way up the mountain over the 19 days going up. The very last leg is basically a sprint from the high camp to the summit. You saw I brought Pagey with me, and Pagey ventured all the way up to the summit of Denali, and I got a picture with Pagey on the previous slide. And then it's basically from there, it's a 24-hour walk back down to where the plane comes in and lands on the glacier to haul you and the remaining stuff back off of the mountain.
You don't get to ride the sleds back down?
You don't, unfortunately. I wish. We do a lot of that in the mountains when I hike here back in New Hampshire. It's fun to hike up and then sled back down, but you've got to be careful of crevasses there. So if you were all spread out going down the mountain, somebody could end up going into one of the crevasses, and
oh no,
if that happens.
Yeah, we're glad that did not happen to you, and that's pretty awesome. I there's a double reason for you to be here as well. You actually contributed to this 5.0 release for us. Some small fixes to some PagerDuty plugins. So maybe let's jump ahead and chat a little bit about that release.
Yeah, definitely. Just wanted to highlight a comment that we have in the chat. So yeah.
Thanks, Joey.
So yeah. So with thank you so much for sharing, David. So feel free to stay with us during the rest of the stream. So release 5.0. So this is a major release. This was released, I believe, on Friday. And so what's new in this release? Why is it a major release? Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so our major releases are always very much focused around what I would call breaking changes or key upgrade points. They also generally, the last few major version updates have coincided with an updated version of our Grails framework that we use. Right, they upgrade to major versions, and we follow that major version cycle as well. But this 5.0 version actually is pretty low impact and brings good, and I call them breaking changes, but I always hesitate with that because these are positive changes, right? Our new minimum Java version and required Java version is Java 11, right? Previously we were on 8 and we had some support for Java 11. Now we've moved up to a minimum of Java 11. So there's likely some steps for existing customers that are running the on-prem version of the software to make sure that Java is updated and that doesn't impact other pieces of software that might be running on the servers. And outside of that, there's the usual API, increments. We've moved the minimum version for API calls is now 17. That was announced at the 4.0 release, right? We moved the new deprecated, the future deprecation version will move up as well. But it's pretty minimal. There's also an upgrade process if you happen to be using the H2 database, which we still don't recommend. It's there for quick, setup and some necessary items. But the H2 database is not recommended for production. So,
yeah, definitely. And I think so what you are doing here with this major release is really important, and it's something that people try to kind of leave for day-to-day operations, but keeping up in kind of bumping up the minimum versions for Java as you are doing here, it's really important, right?
right.
So
I mean, you can always check into all those details that I just listed here on our docs site under the upgrading. We have this 5.0 page that talks about the Java 11 minimum and the H2 upgrade. And then on the, there's always the release notes, of course, the 5.0 section. That goes through all of the changes. So those are some of the breaking ones. Let's talk about the good stuff. Jake, I'm not gonna bury your lead. We'll come back to the key storage stuff, but we did improve the jobs list performance. So when you go to pages that might have a lot of jobs on them, if they're grouped, you're going to see a much improved performance there. We refactored that whole back end. Here's some of the API changes that I mentioned. And if you're using the enterprise runner, it's now going to be matching the versioning of that is going to be matched up with the version of process automation that the runner works with. And maybe I'll put Jake on the spot again to talk a little bit more about that. So
one thing that I would like to highlight here that you kind of skip through very quickly is on the jobs list performance. I see a number like 85%. That's a lot.
We did see, we did some before and afters because we had a few tickets opened about the performance of that page, and we mocked up something with like 1,000 jobs all grouped differently, and we are seeing an 85% performance improvement. And it's a combination of factors. We refactored the backend code. We moved away from some old legacy code and put it into Vue, as well as the group content is lazy loaded, so it doesn't have to go and get all 1,000 jobs all at once.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing, Jake.
And then we'll let Jake talk a little bit about the key storage GUI.
Sure. So before talking about the key storage GUI, I'll briefly talk about that runner versioning and why now we align the runner version with the process automation version. There are a few reasons for that. One is we did some major refactoring of the runner code under the hood so that it makes it faster for us to develop and enhance the runner. And so as we want to add new, whether it's new plugins or new capabilities to the runner, which we certainly do, we have a long roadmap ahead of us for the distributed automation product area. Refactoring that code is going to set us up for the long haul. We had some cyclic dependencies between the core product code and the runner software code that made it so that each time we wanted to incrementally enhance the runner, it meant having to release a version of the core product and then the runner code release, and then it was just back and forth. So we removed those cyclic dependencies, a major undertaking by the engineering team, and so it sets us up really well for the future, for rapidly innovating on distributed automation. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is, I'd say more customer facing, in that it's now easier to track what is the version that you want to be on and what's the latest version and all of that.
Definitely. Yeah, totally.
So that's on the runner versioning. On the key storage GUI, what I'll briefly show here. Present, share screen. Can you all see this slide here, this architecture slide?
Mm-hmm. We do.
Yep. Great. So, just as a refresher for those that aren't using the runner today, the enterprise runner serves as a way to distribute or dispatch automation to remote zones that process automation or runbook automation doesn't have direct access to. And so you'd plop a runner into a cloud environment like a security group, or into a customer environment if you're a service provider, or into a data center. Or physical locations like we have here, like a physical store location, which a lot of our customers are starting to do. And it just phones home using HTTPS outbound. And so one of the key improvements or enhancements that we made to the runner in past few months was the runner's ability to add node inventory from its environment to the runbook automation node inventory. So it can discover nodes like whether it's Kubernetes pods or VMware VMs, or maybe there's an Ansible inventory. The runner can be the source of identifying and adding those nodes to the inventory. But there are some times when getting access to that inventory requires a secret. So if we're talking to the vSphere API, for example, so maybe I'm in my data center here, and there's an ESXi host or vCenter, and I want to talk to the vSphere API. And the only way to do that is by using a secret that is stored on a self-hosted secrets management provider in that environment, such as a HashiCorp Vault. One of the other enhancements we made in the last few months was the runner's ability to talk to a self-hosted Vault instance. And now we've meshed those two capabilities together, such that now if a secret is needed to identify or discover those nodes for the node inventory, we're now able to do that. So here I'm in process automation on-prem with my 5.0 release. And if you can see here, I have just one node, but if I go to now edit nodes and I add a new node source, you can see the long list of node source plugins that we have. Some of these wouldn't require a runner, such as talking to a public cloud provider. There's no reason why you would need a runner for that. But if, for example, I want to discover my VMware nodes, again, talking to vSphere, so now here I can choose whether or not I want to use a runner to do that discovery. So, in this case, I've got my runner in Charlotte, North Carolina. And, if I need a password, right, a secret to be able to talk to the API, I can now do that as well using that same runner. And so now when the discovery for these nodes takes place and we need to talk to the vSphere API and we need a secret that can only be retrieved from, again, a self-hosted vault, this can now all take place through the runner. And so this really, I would say, puts a full circle capability on the runner as in a satellite of automation, meaning that you might be using runbook automation or SaaS product in the cloud. It's a cloud product, but you have a data center with on-premise infrastructure and highly secure environment, maybe a self-hosted secrets management provider. The runner can now tackle the entire operation from node discovery, using secrets, and then dispatching that automation, all the while keeping your secrets safe within your boundary, within your perimeter, and making sure that only the information that you want to be fed back to the core product is fed back to the core product. So really, I would say wraps up a nice suite of capabilities in our distributed automation product area.
Yeah, definitely. And this brings, as you said, this kind of closes the circle in terms of like making sure that you can basically perform like any action in terms of like inside of a security boundary just by leveraging the runner. Yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, like I said, plenty of roadmap ahead of us with the distributed automation. We're not nowhere near finished, but in terms of the wide array of use cases, we've now covered, I'd say, the vast majority of use cases that we see customers looking to accomplish with it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great news. And well, I couldn't like close this live stream without asking what do you guys have planned for well, the next releases of 5.x? Can you share something?
We're definitely gonna continue on the path that Jake was just talking about in our distributed automation realm. We have, as you mentioned, a ton of other ideas and enhancements to that runner architecture. We will also have a couple new key storage plugin suites on our way. New, not necessarily, I guess, new names, but new functionality there. And then we are also revamping, continuing, I guess, the revamp of the UI. Like we talked about the job performance, that back end, work to modernize, that code on the back end, which results in all those performance improvements. That's going to continue to permeate throughout the product. It's also going to help streamline a lot of our UI development. And hopefully along the way make things a little more consistent. We're not shy to admit that buttons are sometimes in strange places. I attribute that to the nature of an open source product, right? It grew well. It grew with an awesome community that we have out there, and we're gonna put the time into maybe can make that a little bit more consistent.
I tend to joke that you can tell where a given open source contributor lived based off of like the button placement on the left side or the right side of the screen.
It's a northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere.
Yeah, exactly. How do they read? Do they read left to right or right to left? And that's where you end up with the buttons on the. No,
I thought you were going to say it's based on what side of the road they drive on.
Oh,
could be that too, right? Exactly. Where do they tend to look for their primary buttons? But
yeah, well, there's more mountains to come, so maybe we'll have Dave back every time we come up with the next release. It's kind of a random generator that pulls the names out of a list. So I'll run it by and we'll see if Dave can tell us more about that particular mountain.
I vote for Whitney next.
All right. We'll pray to the computer gods and see what it spits out next for us.
Exactly.
The other, I guess, asterisk, we also at the same time last Friday released 4.17.4. There is a bug. If anyone was running into browsers crashing due to the whale log or a job that had a really big job log that produced the whale, what's fondly known as the whale log screen. If your browser is crashing from that in 4.17.3, the 4.17.4 fixes that.
Cool. I'll share the link for that as well in the chat. And I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No,
not
Good
really.
See you.
Okay, cool. So I guess that's it for 2023. This is the last live stream for me this year and for PagerDuty actually. And so thank you once again, Forrest and Jake and David. Thank you so much for joining us today as a special guest. For everyone watching, thank you so much for the time you spent with us today and the rest of the live streams that we did during the year. Enjoy your holidays and see you again in 2024.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
See you.